This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency? Chesterfield Emergency Service. Very good hands here.
We count on the police to be there for us when we need them. But who helps cops when they're in trouble? I'm William Shatner. Tonight, true stories of courage and compassion on Rescue 911. We begin just before noon on May 15th in Seattle, Washington. On this Monday, dozens of people, civilian heroes, would work together with the police to help a man they didn't know.
Seattle Police and Fire, floor 2.
Yeah, we need a police car.
Police and Fire, 52.
Gunshots at Larry Way.
Fire emergency, operator 93.
Yes, there's a policeman down on 42nd and Larry.
Fire operator 91.
Yeah, my name's Pat Gowan. A policeman's been shot.
Did you see who shot him? Okay, stay on the line.
You did hear shots, though, is that right?
Help the officer transferring in now.
Sir.
Medic 116.
Dual response, officer shot.
Radio.
Radio, I have a help the officer call. Stay on the line, sir. The fire department and the police are responding. We heard gunshots. Okay. There is a cop down.
When I hear an officer shot, it makes me really realize how dangerous this job is. All I had to rely on was these citizens that stopped to explain what happened.
Businessman Jack Fisher was driving by at the time.
I was returning from the bank on my way to work, and I saw that an officer had a car off the side of the road giving him a ticket.
For Officer Mark Sigfrinius, it was just a routine traffic stop.
I heard the sound of a shot, and the officer immediately dropped. The getaway car went around me almost immediately, so I ran back to see how I could help the officer. I remember very vividly the feeling of seeing a man laying on the ground, spread eagle, with his pistol laying beside him. My heart went out to him, and I tried to cradle him a little bit and see if there was any way I could help him.
Across the street, Jerry Newell was also on his way back to work.
I came to the intersection, and the next thing I know, the officer's shooting a revolver into a car, and it's kind of on a mission to leave the scene of the accident. It scared the daylight out of me. To look, and then all of a sudden somebody's shooting a police officer. There's something you just don't realize that can happen.
Deliveryman Glenn Smith took off after the suspects.
The car was getting away and sped around the corner. My first reaction was to see if I couldn't intercept him and put him out of commission. I was very angry. I just wanted to stop that vehicle any way I could. And we can't have this carload of clowns shooting up our officers. That's no way.
It ran through my mind, are this guy's going to come back around the corner and shoot my ass? But it was a natural reaction to go to a radio and call for help.
Officer down. You get us assistance?
Is there an officer that needs assistance?
Officer Roger, there's an officer that needs assistance.
After I heard the citizens say that an officer needed assistance, I did turn on my emergency light and siren and started heading that way right away. When the citizen was talking on the radio, you know there's a problem because they shouldn't be having that radio.
Someone flagged down a passing fire truck. Lieutenant Ray Risden was on board.
Help the officer, 41
The officer told us, just do whatever you have to do. We removed his shirt and cut his t-shirt up, and that was at that time you could see a bullet hole in the right chest, about a 1/4 inch diameter, and he started complaining of shortness of breath and being a little bit cold.
The first police officer to arrive, Roger Lutz, had known Sigfrinius for more than 20 years.
I saw that Officer Sigfrinius was being taken care of, so I was trying to get information out onto radio that we did have an officer down who had been shot and to approach his car with extreme caution. It kind of hits close to home. It just kind of hits you right in the head. Man, what's going on here? A delivery truck man came back and told me that he had followed the suspect car, and he says they had gotten out of the car only a few blocks away. The suspects were now on foot.
And approach the vehicle with caution. There have been shots fired. An officer has been shot.
EMTs got to the scene within 4 minutes. Soon after, Patrol Officer Ron Haviland arrived.
I was emotionally sick to my stomach, realizing that it was an officer that I knew and had worked around. I think you actually try to slow down before you rush into something, trying to picture what got this officer there to begin with, and to make sure that you don't fall into the same trap, but yet you try to get him as much help as possible, as soon as possible.
We had one firefighter stabilizing his head, and we log rolled him to the side looking for an exit wound at his back. At that time is when he informed us that he didn't have any sensation in his legs or from his chest down. We put a collar on him, backboarded him. One of the firefighters applied a patch to the wound site to prevent any air from entering. We continued to monitor his vitals. He started complaining that the pain was increasing and getting worse. We kind of had the suspicion that we might have had something to the spinal cord and possible liver damage.
When we continue.
We have a citizen that saw them running past her house, taking off their shirts, 3 males.
Callers and witnesses helped lead the police to the car driven by the man who shot motorcycle cop Mark Sigfrinius. But by the time the first officer got there, the car was empty. And the 3 people who had been in it had already disappeared.
We have the suspect's vehicle with bullet holes in it, 3rd Northwest, Northwest 44. It looks unoccupied at this time.
As I turned the corner, there was the car. The back window was partially blown out. It was just incredible, the amount of citizens that started coming forward. Yeah, I saw them. They were running northbound. I've never seen people run that fast, they said.
I was more than happy to help them. I think every citizen should feel that way. If you see someone doing something wrong, and you can help an officer out, I think you should do it. I think that's part of your duty.
Do you have a dog unit available?
Traffic cop Richard O'Neill put the information out over the radio and called for a canine unit. Officer Mike Gleason and his partner Chase responded.
And there's a lot of adrenaline pumping because you want to get whoever did the shooting. I think it's a little bit different breed of criminal that'll shoot a policeman.
Gleason took Chase directly to the abandoned car to get a scent.
It was a real difficult police dog application. It's the middle of the day. It was in excess of 70 degrees out, bright sunshine. Not the best conditions to try and hunt someone down with a police dog, especially track them down.
Where'd he go? Come on, bud. Chase.
Here. We managed to get a track going, or a trail going, in a northwest direction.
3 Cuban males that jumped out of their car.
In an incident like this, you want to keep the suspects contained. You want to keep them in the neighborhood, in the area. You don't want them stealing a car or hopping on a bus or getting out of the area. You want to keep them in as close an area as you can.
Tom 56 with more info from a citizen.
An 8-square block area was cordoned off, and containment officers were stationed around the perimeter.
upstairs.
We have a citizen that lives at 1 Northwest 47. Saw them running past her house, taking off their shirt. 3 black males, 20s to 30s.
Okay, we believe suspects 3
My
males,
portable
20 to
radio
30s.
was just constantly
Have
busy.
shirts
You were
on at
getting,
this point.
you'd hear officers report talking to citizens that they had seen these people. This was a pretty good help because it confirmed your belief that you were going in the right direction. We were getting closer up into the area where the officers were reporting that citizens had seen these guys. And all of a sudden I could see Chase's body language change. He began winding the suspects.
Moving in the area, you want us roving or on a quadrant?
Come on, Jim, come on. Come on, Jim.
That last unit was
Had a lot of officers out on foot, a lot of citizens out there, but criminals, when they're being chased, put off a little bit different scent. An experienced police dog like Chase be able to pick it out. I'm pretty certain that this time that we were real close to him.
I'm talking to this guy down here. Have you already talked to this person right down here? Okay, you said he saw 2 black males up there less than 5 minutes ago in the bushes up there. Where? K911, yeah, K97, come up here with me. We're coming into a wooded area. K911. Independent confirmation. Trails heading northeast.
I felt that we had maybe overshot him in the brush where we'd come through. So I took Chase and we worked our way back down through the brush there. At this time, Wilson picked up a shotgun from one of the containment officers. I knew immediately that Chase had made a find. They'd shot a policeman. I'm sure they wouldn't hesitate to shoot the dog. And so I'd given him the attack command, and I ran directly towards where Chase was.
I'm heading up to 222's location, and we'll give you a roll call there if we get things organized. Okay, receive. Location. Just down the hill from First Northwest and Northwest Market. Just down the hill from First Northwest and Northwest Market. 683, if there's no other agent or closer, I'll head up there. 683 will respond.
Hand down here!
31 minutes after Officer Mark Sigfrinius was shot, 3 suspects were arrested. One was found guilty of attempted murder. The other 2 had lesser charges dismissed because they testified against him.
602 is the supervisor on the scene. Unit standby. Are all 3 suspects in custody? Get down. All 3 suspects are in custody.
I don't think that Chase has ever made a more important arrest or a more important capture than this one here. Those are the ones you don't want to get away.
There was a doctor standing there, and I asked him, "What's wrong with me?" And he says, "Well, when you were shot, the bullet, ended up in your spine and you're paralyzed from the waist down." And I said, "Oh, good." I said, "What's the chances of me walking again?" He said, "Well, medically speaking, not much of a chance at all."
4 months later, Mark is in physical therapy. The bullet is still in his spine. His wife, Priscilla, is also learning to cope.
You live with a police officer for so many years, you expect that something might happen. But when I stop and think that this is the man that I'm married to, I love, he's always been real considerate and did things for me. He was the one that would get up and get the glass of water. Well, now it's my turn to get up and get it. So we're taking turns.
There was many times when I felt like giving up. I felt that the pain was too great, and it would have been a lot easier to die. Every day gets better, and you just try to make it a challenge, and it is a challenge, no doubt about it. It wasn't meant to happen that I just sit home and vegetate, and say woe is me for the rest of my life. I couldn't do that.
I have to find something purposeful to contribute to society, I guess. Sounds like a very lofty, noble thing, but it isn't. I want to do something that helps people.
Volunteers have helped reconstruct Mark and Priscilla's house to make it totally accessible by wheelchair.
There has been a lot of people who have sent donations, which has helped. We wouldn't be able to do it if we hadn't had the donations, and it bothers me that there are other handicapped people out there. I don't know how they do it. As far as the future, that's just something we're going to have to see what happens when we get there.
The driving force behind the remodeling is a family friend, Earl Kruger.
I think this is my way of thanking Mark and the rest of the police, the firemen, whoever, for the job they do, and to show them that the rest of us civilian folk really do care.
As far as the citizen input into the Mark Schizophrenia shooting, I give them a 10 on a scale of 10. The citizens of Seattle, they were right there, not only from the time Mark was shot, but all the way through his rehabilitation in the hospital and going home. But they stayed there, and they says, this is the kind of car that it was. This is what they looked like. This is where they went. We even had that one man follow them and come back and tell us, this is where they left the car. It kind of gives me, as a Seattle police officer, a good feeling.
When I was a small child, I always wanted to become a police officer. It was just something that I always wanted to do, and I did. Probably my favorite part was riding motorcycles. I couldn't believe that they would actually pay me to ride a bike, and I like that. You want to walk, you want to get up, you want to do the things you used to do, and it doesn't work. And you just have to make it a challenge that, I'm going to do as many things as I can. I've already been fishing, I'm going to go flying. I'm going to do a lot of the stuff I would do when I was walking. It just have to be rolling rather than walking. I'm going to ride a motorcycle again. It might have to be a three-wheeler, but I'm going to do it. There's nothing's going to stop me.
Next.
The serviceman was convinced that there was a good chance somebody was in the house. They was afraid that if he was right, they would be dead.
At 22, Bill Kruger took his job seriously. He knew all the rules, and he followed them. But on November 6, 1988, in Skokie, Illinois, it would not be enough to just follow procedure.
That Sunday morning was cold and wet. Bob and Magda Brown were at home, catching up on household chores.
My wife and I were down in the basement working. I say, hey, something is wrong. It's cold here. So right away, I know that the furnace is not working. We find the pilot light is off, and then Magda has to start lighting it.
There it is.
Oh, it's not working.
She had to light several matches in order to finally get it going. We continued working until she left me to go upstairs to prepare lunch. All of a sudden, I realized that she says, oh my God, I don't feel well. Something's wrong. She says, my heart is beating so fast. My heart is beating so fast. I says, let me check your pulse. And I started checking it. And I thought, what the heck is this? And it was beating more than twice as fast as mine. She says to me, don't you smell the gas? Don't you smell the gas? I says, Magda, there's no gas smell.
Not knowing what was wrong, Bob began calling anyone he could think of for help. But their family doctor was not in. And their daughter, Rochelle, was not home.
There's one call I gotta make. Magda says there's gas, and I call up the gas company. I said, my wife is violently sick. She's got a headache. She's thrown up. She smells gas. Therefore, I'd appreciate somebody coming out.
When we continue.
The serviceman was convinced that there was a good chance somebody was in the house. They was afraid that if he was right, they would be dead.
Bob's call to the gas company was relayed by dispatcher Steve Jones to 22-year-old field serviceman Bill Kruger.
.2018 quick call.
It took only a few minutes for Bill to get to the Browns' home. Following gas company procedure, he went to the back door of the house first.
To me, it was just, at that point, just another call that I was going on. I figured on my way back, I would go to the front door, maybe they didn't hear me. There was a car in the driveway, and there was a car out in front of the house.
When there was no answer at the front door either, Bill reported back to the office.
Yeah, 10-4, Steve. I don't get any answer over here at this residence on Main Street. Can you give him a call?
10-4, I'll make the phone call.
Even though we instruct the customers to stay, they don't always stay.
There was no answer. The Browns seemed to have gone out. But Bill was not convinced, so he went next door to talk to their neighbor, Wilson Acuna.
I saw somebody walking around the house. I think something got to be wrong. What is this guy doing here?
Hi. Hi, I'm from the gas company.
He wanted to know if I seen the neighbors. I say, no, I haven't seen them.
I just had a gut feeling there was something weird here. TV was on, lights on, cars in the driveway. To me, that would sound like somebody's home. And I then proceeded to check around the door frame for carbon monoxide, right around the lock, where you can get some draft through. And I got 200 parts per million. It was real high for me to get a reading outside the door like that, so I knew it had to be really bad inside.
But even in an emergency, gas company employees can't break into private homes.
Hi, can I borrow your phone? I got a problem. You can feel your heart pumping, and you just think of the steps that you were taught of what to do in an emergency situation. I think the people might be inside. I'm going to need the paramedics and the police over here as soon as you can.
Skokie 911.
Dispatcher Mark Klinghoffer took the call for help at 3:35 p.m.
They gave me the address.
Attention, rescue truck 17.
As I was dispatching the call to the ambulance, I realized that I knew the people that lived in the house.
Investigation for an odor of gas. Engine 17, rescue truck 17, ambulance 18 and 1602.
I've known the Browns for close to 20 years. It was the first time I ever realized that I'd be dispatching calls to friends and people that I knew and loved.
I thought that it might be just, the people that called, gas company, took a long time getting there, they went out somewhere.
I think we got some people inside here.
But the serviceman was convinced that there was a good chance somebody was in the house. He found carbon monoxide, 200 parts per million. I was hoping he was wrong because I was afraid that if he was right, they would be dead. We noticed that there was no smell of natural gas, so most likely if there was a problem, it was carbon monoxide.
Somebody in the kitchen. Somebody open some windows. There's one in here.
And he was unconscious and apparently not breathing. I checked for a pulse and he did have a pulse.
Whoa, we got another victim. We got another one in there.
Okay, ma'am, with the Skokie Fire Department. Relax, relax. We're trying to get you out of here. Probably come by gases.
He just had a lot of red color in him, like he was on fire or something. It's a scary moment.
The female patient was apparently experiencing impaired judgment at the time, which is not unusual for carbon monoxide poisoning.
When Bill checked the furnace, he found it was burning fuel improperly, giving off deadly carbon monoxide gas. He shut it down until it could be repaired.
He's starting to assist a little on ventilation. Let's get him over onto the board.
Okay, back.
The paramedics went to work on Bob immediately.
Gonna get his arms down.
When they were taking her out the front door, the female patient passed out. Her condition was critical.
The male patient was breathing, but he was breathing shallow, not very deep respiration, so our initial treatment was to make sure that he was getting enough oxygen and to kind of control his breathing for him. He wouldn't have lasted much more than maybe 10 minutes in that condition.
Mrs. Brown, I'm going to put some oxygen on. This is going to help you.
You're always explaining what you're doing to a patient in the hopes that at some time they'll respond to you.
I have to start an IV on you.
On the way to the hospital, Bob regained consciousness.
The paramedic started talking to me, and he said, Mr. Brown, you and your wife just had an accident. You had carbon monoxide poisoning. I look around, I says, where's my wife? My wife? Well, how's she? Forgive me. I became frightened for her.
Bob and Magda Brown were taken to Lutheran General Hospital for treatment.
At the hospital, they were pushing us out on the gurneys, and we were just about alongside each other when we touched hands on the gurney going in. And I felt better.
The Browns were put in a pressurized room to force the carbon monoxide out of their red blood cells. Their daughter Rochelle could only watch and wait.
One of the paramedics grabbed me over to the side and said, I don't know if you realize this, but we're talking another 2 or 3 minutes, and both of your parents would have been dead. It was like hearing that. It's just a tremendous kick. And all I could think was, I looked at both of them and they went, oh, okay, they're here now. And it just struck me how remarkably lucky I was.
I have tremendous faith, and I feel that God has some calling for me because He saved me in Auschwitz and He saved me this time, so maybe I have a few more years to go and spread some joy in this world.
Nearly a year later, Magda and Bob got a chance to meet Bill Kruger for the first time.
Oh my goodness!
Meeting Bill for the first time was gratifying to me. It was a shock because I'd never seen him. I've seen a picture of him in the newspaper, and I've talked to him on the phone several times.
Thank you over and over and over again.
And it was nice to be able to say to him, thank you for saving my life. What else can you say?
I just did something that maybe other people would have done too in that same instance. I just did my job.
Next, a lot of things went through my mind, like, I got him into diving. Is this going to plague me the rest of my life? That basically I was the reason that he was there.
"26 miles across the sea from Los Angeles, Santa Catalina Island has attracted scuba divers for years with its clear waters and abundant sea life. But the beautiful undersea world can quickly become dangerous. On May 14th, Butch Hanley and his 23-year-old son Eddie went to Catalina on an advanced open water scuba diving class.
If there's no questions, let's make sure that we do proper ascents and descents. Stay with your buddy, and if there's nothing else, let's go ahead and get suited up.
I've always liked water. I like being in water, and I've wanted to dive for years, and I tried to talk different people into taking a class with me. And I more or less drugged my son Eddie over to it and signed us both up. Well, diving's like a different world from what we're used to. When a friendly Garibaldi swims up to you and looks in your face mask eye to eye, that's really a unique experience, something I enjoy doing.
And Eddie seemed to enjoy going with his father. Diving on the buddy system, they kept in close contact to make sure someone would know if either of them got into trouble.
On this particular dive, it was a deep dive and a cavern dive both, so we descended down to the mouth of the cave, which is approximately 80 feet.
Instructor Rich Wallace led the small group into one of many undersea caves off Blue Cavern Point.
After we played in there for a matter of maybe 5 minutes, we then met back again at the mouth of the cave to continue out to our depth that we were looking for, which is 100 feet.
Once they reached 100 feet, they were supposed to begin to carefully return to the surface.
Both the basic class and advanced class person is taught to ascend normally. A normal ascent would be, we don't want them to go up too fast. They shouldn't hold their breath. And this is stressed from the very, very first day in a dive class.
Proper ascent is a matter of life and death to divers. Mistakes can cause lethal nitrogen to build up in the bloodstream or air bubbles to form on the brain. But this practice dive was not supposed to risk anyone's life. When it came time to ascend, Eddie seemed to have trouble getting off the bottom. The other divers got far ahead of him.
During the ascent, Eddie and his father were separated, and that's not something we would ever wish to happen while we're diving.
In his panic to catch up with the others, Eddie overfilled his inflatable buoyancy control vest and headed for the surface out of control.
Approximately 50 feet or something, he just blew past me. I knew he was going up too fast.
As soon as Eddie hit the surface, he managed to signal that he was in trouble. His instructor was the first to respond.
Eddie, you okay?
I knew there was a problem. I yelled to the boat.
Oh, we got an accident. Call Baywatch. Baywatch Isthmus. Baywatch
LA
Isthmus.
County lifeguard paramedics Steve Traeger and Richard Bates responded to the call for help.
Within a few moments of me getting there, he was totally paralyzed from the neck down.
I've seen a lot of accidents, but never my son that serious a condition. And the thoughts that he might be permanently paralyzed or die was really hard to swallow.
We didn't quite know what we had at that time, just a diver in distress, and you have to assume the worst. So we brought up all the necessary gear, our defibrillator, our resuscitator, our drug box, because you really never know what you're going to have when you have a dive case. They could be anywhere from asymptomatic, which is no symptoms at all, to a full arrest, which would be your worst scenario.
The Baywatch paramedics were on the scene within 3 minutes.
That was a tense moment at that time, exciting for us because we knew exactly what we had. This guy's in deep coma. It was quite obvious that we were dealing probably with an air embolism, and at that time he could have gone either way.
Lethal air bubbles had formed in Eddie's brain when he held his breath while heading to the surface rapidly. Without treatment, he would die.
We placed him in the Trendelenburg position. We elevated his feet about 1.5 feet, thus preventing the air bubbles from lodging any deeper into the brain.
I knew that we had a critical patient. I felt we had to get him to the chamber fast. There was a possibility of him going downhill. His respiration or his pulse could have stopped at any moment. So we went extra fast in getting him moved to the chamber.
The hyperbaric chamber on Catalina Island is one of a very few specialized treatment centers for diving accidents, allowing total control of air pressure.
We transported him into the chamber where we began our initial treatment of getting vitals and establishing an IV.
A call was put into the USC Medical Center Medical Alert Team, where Dr. Jeffrey Sipsey was on duty.
Medical Alert Center, this is the Catalina Hyperbaric Chamber. We have a diving accident.
He took charge of the patient's treatment by phone.
Yeah, okay. I think
Eddie needed to be taken down to a pressure level deeper than the one he was diving at, so the size of the air bubble in his brain would be reduced safely without causing paralysis or death.
We have a paramedic on the outside who receives the orders from the base physician, and then in turn he could relay that to the paramedic on the inside.
You ready, man? Let's go ahead and compress. Go.
Although it's a slow, controlled process, the pressure in the chamber can have a dangerous narcotic effect on the rescue workers, so their condition must be watched as well.
We got to about 30 feet of repressurizing, and the patient started to scream.
Stop the descent!
I didn't know for sure if we're blowing his ears out due to the decompression. Apparently the screaming was just him starting to regain consciousness again.
Let's go ahead and continue down. Have a ear problem with this
From outside the chamber, Butch Handley waited as they worked on his son.
I could watch him through a porthole in the side of the chamber. Basically, that's what I did for several hours. You know, a lot of things went through my mind, like, you know, I got him into diving. Is this going to plague me the rest of my life? That, you know, that basically I was the reason that he was there.
Upon getting to our ultimate depth there, when we arrived at 165 feet, the patient started showing signs of recovering and coming around. That's something we see in the chamber it's quite dramatic. When you have a person that's completely comatose to come out within 5 minutes like that, it's really something.
How are you feeling now?
If everything is fine with the patient, in other words, his condition is improved, he's stable, we will then ascend. When we get to 30 feet in the treatment, things look fine. And suddenly, during the middle of an oxygen breathing period, that he had a seizure.
Alex, we've got a seizure. Take him off O2.
Still all right until the time that he had the seizure in the chamber, and I would just sit there watch him through the porthole. That scared me a whole lot. And that really concerned me that there was more damage done than what the paramedics and doctor was telling me.
Looks like his seizure stopped. Let's roll him back on his back.
We, at that point in time, decided that this was probably due to his air embolism and the swelling on the brain, and returned to the depth of 60 feet to start the treatment over again.
After 13 hours of treatment in the hyperbaric chamber, Eddie was transported to the hospital. 2 days later, he was released.
I hope this individual realizes how lucky and fortunate he is to be able to come out of this the way he did, because to me, that's a medical miracle.
I don't remember them ever taking me out of the water. I can remember hallucinating, and what I was hallucinating was that the class had gathered around me, and the instructor was saying, well, see, this is what happens to you when you come up too fast. And I'm yelling, you know, why are you doing this to me? You know, what did I do? And I can remember a voice saying, you didn't do anything, just relax. And that voice was the paramedics in the chamber.
I felt very helpless, just real helpless. I wished I could have been there with him, you know, not knowing what condition he was in. It was a very frightening experience, you know. He's my baby.
I think they did a great job. You know, so I'm very thankful for them. The quick reactions of everybody that got him in the chamber, which was basically the reason why he has no complications after the accident.
Well, I wasn't sure if I was going to resume diving. It's that fear of, well, if this happens to me again, I might not be so lucky, I might not walk away from it. You know, I love diving so much, it's in my blood. I had to go again. Once I did, I got over the initial fear, and I've been diving ever since. You know, I don't even know the names of the guys that were in the chamber, but you know, I'd just like to say thanks a lot. You know, you guys did a great job.
Next.
When I saw the smoke around the door, that's when I knew I had to drop the kids out the window.
In an emergency, difficult decisions sometimes must be made in an instant. And good Samaritans who keep calm and act quickly can mean the difference between life and death. All the people you'll meet in this story return to help us reenact it just as it happened on February 9th of this year. Within sight of the Capitol, in the southeast district of Washington, charred and boarded up buildings show visible scars of past tragedies. Last February 9th at the Parklands Apartments, yet another fire broke out. Starting in a mattress on the second floor in the back, it quickly got out of control. As the fire spread toward the front of the building, the only stairwell began to fill with smoke and flames.
Darryl Marshall and I had just arrived back at the maintenance shop when we noticed smoke coming from 3401 Stanton Road.
So Mitch and myself ran down the sidewalk.
The maintenance workers headed for the stairway to try to warn any residents still trapped in the building.
We knew that if anybody was in there, they would either get smoke inhalation or be burned very severely.
When we continue.
When I saw the smoke around the door, that's when I knew I had to drop the kids out the window.
On the floor above the fire, in Mrs. Gross's apartment, 8 babies were sleeping. Great-grandmother Lillian Gross looks after babies from the neighborhood while their parents are at work. Before she even realized there was a fire in the building, Lillian and the 8 babies were trapped in her apartment.
I didn't have any idea what was happening out here.
As we approached the second floor landing, we found that we couldn't go up the stairs. There was so much smoke and flame, and it's almost like someone had something over your face, smothering you. I mean, the smoke was just that thick.
I opened the door, and it was black out there, so I just slammed the door. And that's when the smoke alarm went off.
With the only means of escape blocked by dense smoke, Lillian quickly gathered the children together in the bedroom near the front window.
Cindy. You read? Yeah, miss. Yeah, I have a fire. We have a fire down here. What's the address? We have a fire? What's the address? Still in there. 3401 Stanton Road, apartment 201. What's wrong there, miss?
It's a fire and the smoke is coming up. It started from the second floor.
You need the fire department to come, right? Hold on.
The fire dispatcher sent out the call.
Box alarm engines 32, 25, 15, and 33. Trucks 8 and 7, T3 squad crew. Fire on the second floor. 3401 Stanton Road Southeast, Cross Street, Savannah Street. Box alarm engines 32, 25, 15, and 33. Trucks 8 and 7, T3 squad crew respond. Fire on the second floor. 34.
I said, what are we going to do? How am I going to get these kids out of here?
Help me, somebody. I got babies up here. I can't throw them down.
The maintenance men were hollering. So they all know me. They said, throw the kids down, we'll throw them down. We'll catch them, we'll catch them. I didn't think they would. When I saw the smoke around the door, that's when I knew I had to drop the kids out the window.
Parkland's employee, Gwen Johnson, comforted the baby, who was unharmed by her 30-foot fall.
I don't remember anything. I don't know who went first or who went last or how they went.
It crossed my mind that the children may not have been caught, but I would have much rather for those children to have had a scratch, a broken arm, than have burns or not be here.
Most of the people who die in fires never see the flames. They're killed by the toxic smoke and gases the fires give off. Infants and small children are particularly vulnerable.
Nia held on to the window. She didn't want to let go, so I had to pull her hand away to drop her out. But she was holding on. She didn't want to go out.
I didn't know I was going to catch it, but I was praying that I would. I mean, I didn't want to drop the baby. I was just so glad. When I caught the baby, I was grabbing this, held it tight, and I passed the baby back. That was like to see them babies coming out their window.
When the police arrived, the babies were moved into the patrol cars to get them out of the freezing weather. Last to go was 9-month-old Vaughn Tyler.
Come on. We got him. Come on.
It was just so much emotion from everybody that gathered. It was like an arm of blankets. It's no way those kids could have hit the ground. No way.
I forgot to mount. Holler for help myself.
More than 700 preschool-aged children in America will die this year in fires. But on this day, not one baby had been hurt.
Okay, come on out.
I don't feel like a hero. I'm glad that the babies are all safe. I'm glad we all got out. I think the heroes in this story were the maintenance crew because they're the ones that caught the babies.
I think the community reacted in a collective effort. No one was harmed, and I think we've learned a good lesson that very often people who react do it the right way.
Had those babies not gotten out, Miss Gross not have dropped them down to us, the mothers could have said, we had our babies just in our hand this morning, but tonight they're gone.
Could have been a different story. We could all have been dead. Then I just look at them and smile. Thank God.